Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. In today's episode. So we aren't doing our jobs right, are we? Very well. We'll follow your instructions to the letter. Not gonna pay me the wages I deserve? Game on. Take the week off and make it seem like the job won't be there? Okay, sincerely the only employee. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. So we aren't doing our jobs right, are we? Very well. We'll follow your instructions to the letter. Sorry, before anything else, for the formatting and the following rant. I tend to go on tangents, so please, bear with this lurker. If this doesn't belong here, do tell please. For some context, this happened back in December 2013. Hit 18, wanted to get a job. Earn enough cash to pay my way through college. That kind of thing. My very first job was as an azafata and assistant, basically, that can do any number of random things. In this case, I helped run a Coca-Cola stand in a game platform within a children's fair. It would last only for about a week, and the pay was decent enough for a brat trying to earn something for themselves, which was my case even if the hours were pretty inconvenient. So there we were, 4 teens, 5 stands, and about 30 interchangeable kids per stand at any given time. The others were old hand at this, all of them had worked there at least once, and one of them, even more. We declared her team leader on the spot. And then, of course, there was our manager, let's call her lazy bitch or LB, I suppose dash, filing her nails and checking her phone, while we all tried to organize ourselves, keep control of 2 stands at once, make sure the children were engaged and nothing of our assigned stand got lost or broken, try to pacify parents, convince kids that it was the next kid's turn, endure tantrums, keep track of children too young to be by themselves being by themselves, and then running to security to alert them when, inevitably, the kids confessed they'd gotten lost, while praying nothing went to shit. In the meantime, I, being the noob, and pretty fast when inspired, was delegated to this role shortly, and without fanfare TL ran a tight ship. After the end of that first shift, which was a half day, LB was supposed to address any concerns we had. It was pretty stressful work, and TL told us it wasn't the first time someone just up and left mid-shift, and wasn't surprised they sent someone to keep an eye on things. LB up and left 2 hours before closing. We were baffled. She didn't look at us once, didn't even talk to us. Nothing. Zero, zilch, nada. And we had concerns. Oh, did we have concerns? We needed at least 2 people to control one of the games. 2 other games required us to run around behind plastic balls, or crouching down to pick up bottle caps nearly every other second lest a random unsupervised 3-year-old went and swallowed one, and believe me, there were legion. Besides which, we needed an additional half hour at the beginning and end of our shifts to set everything up and do clean up. So at the end of the day, TL took out her phone and exasperatedly asked us to tell her our concerns, and she'd relay them to the LB. Her tone wasn't promising though. Then, things got weird. Me, why don't you email this to the people who employed us? TL, what do you mean, HW? I'm sending this to LB, aren't I? Me, but if LB wanted to listen to our concerns, she would have stayed, wouldn't she? If she won't, it's only right to relay them directly to her superiors. She would have had to report to them anyway, right? An insert name of employer wanted to know if there was any trouble. At this point, TL got a glint in her eye. I was pretty confused about this. In my mind, my solution was the reasonable next step. Damn, was I a naive, devious creature mind, I didn't realize the petty revenge brewing, or the malicious compliance to follow. I really was that oblivious, still am, sometimes. TL nodded thoughtfully, recorded us all, and promised to make a report and send it to LB, her direct superior, and our employer. LB was there the next day, bright and early and fuming. TL, you received my mail, then? LB, what is the meaning of this? TL, our concerns. You were supposed to ask us yesterday, and deal with them today, but we understand you must have quite a busy schedule, so we compiled it ourselves. At this point, LB was turning a very intriguing share of red. I remember wondering if she'd caught a cold or something. Sweet summer child, so sweet, so naive. From here on out, it's malicious compliance by all parts. There are no innocents beyond this point. LB, I see. Then let's address them, shall we? We don't have the money to get more people, so you'll have to figure something on your own. I'm sure you'll come up with something. In regards to the stress, I said one person per game. Chose one and stick with it. Your responsibility is with the company, lost children are not our concern. If parents get difficult, ask them to leave the premises, and on she went. Basically, she not only refused to address any of our concerns, dismissed them out of hand, and called us both incompetent and spoiled, she condescended us, told us we weren't doing our jobs right, and she hinted that we would get half pay. Look, I was a pretty sweet kid. A little naive, plenty kind. Shy. Quiet. No one had dared condescend me since I made my Christian education teacher cry when I was 7. I might have implied that Adam and Eve were incestuous, as was more than half the monarchy in Europe, and didn't understand where the church got the idea that it was a sin to fuck your sister when they happily put crowns on men who fucked their nieces. I liked documentaries. So we weren't doing our jobs right, were we? Okay. TL and I shared this look. So we closed down the most troublesome and popular game, because we're short on staff, we're terribly sorry, put a barricade at the door and limited entry to about 30 people at a time, parents included, closed the second most troublesome and popular game booth mined, incidentally in the 3 last hours of our shift so we could take short breaks to distress, we called, loudly, at the security guards when a lost kid wandered our way, to their bewilderment it's the company policy. Apparently. Can't leave the booth to help lost kids. We got a talking to this morning, you see, we smiled at ranting parents until they lost steam and started babbling awkwardly, looking a little creeped out. LB laid down the law, did she? Well, we were fucking embracing the fucking law, and made it our bitch. On that note, that day we made about half of what we did on the half shift. On half shift we worked 4 hours. That day? We stayed from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., plus an additional hour for opening and closing. And most of what we earned were tips from the parents. TL kept note of it all with a precision and dedication I thought only surgeons and homicide detectives possessed. Apparently, road engineers do too. So you can imagine LB's face when she came in the next day because she'd decided to be more proactive. Apparently, her malicious compliance. One of our concerns was that she wasn't truly present to attend to any sudden or unexpected incidents that we didn't know how to deal with, like accidents for example, and looked at our earnings. She accused us of taking the money for ourselves. TL gave her the impeccable record that she amiably reminded the woman she had sent our employer and her superior already of our earnings the day before. Reminded the LB of our suggestions. Was shot down. We were reamed again. She repeated the same spiel. We grimly followed the rules even more aggressively than before. TL kept a log, brought a sheet and asked the parents to sign, if they'd please, because corporate is doing a survey, you see. And when they didn't, she asked their kids, which were always happy to have a bic in hand to get to some mischief. Not to worry, TL had at least 200 of them in her bag. I figured we'd passed the event horizon about then, but I didn't even care anymore. Instead of smiling at ranting parents until they ran away uncomfortable and disquieted, I was good at this one we called security instead, corporate policy. Harassment of the employees will result in the guilty party being escorted from the premises, and got them escorted out of the fair entirely. The most popular game remained closed. The other games closed for about 2 hours each irregularly while we took our lunch and bathroom breaks. It was anarchy at this point, and TL was unstoppable. Every day, when she got home from work, she sent our list of complaints, with an added bonus for each day that passed, to our superiors, LB included plus ourselves. Just in case. She got in contact with the union to make inquiries, asked a lawyer friend to help her look at our contract, endured LB's rants each morning and kept us informed and working as a well-oiled machine despite the chaos. It was awe-inspiring. I wanted to be her when I grew up. On the final day things had calmed down considerably. LB didn't show up, which at this point was pretty suspicious in hindsight. But we didn't care. It had been a tiring week, and the calm was relaxing. In the morning we only had to deal with a tourist group, no more than 50 total. None of them spoke our language to save their lives, but I was pretty fluent, even if my pronunciation was pretty awful, so we got them more than once, and probably broke even from LB's shitty managing skills cash-wise thanks to them alone. TL noted it all down religiously, and I played tour guide with her blessing, kept an eye on their kids when they ran around and translated for everyone. Then, I saw LB walking to our booth. I'd already explained to a couple of the parents about LB and our circumstances, mostly to translate another azafadas gossip, so when they saw her, and I confirmed her as LB, they told me to go back, and they'd come to say goodbye later. They were really lovely people. So I reached my booth shortly before LB. And then, there was silence. Literally everyone in the game platform was looking at us like I guess people look at a train wreck. And then, LB smiled, and told us in tones of rejoicing and celebration that she was ready to address our concerns. That well. I knew TL was angry. I knew A and L were angry. I myself was pretty confused because, hello? Look around you? There's about 20 kids total today. And not even in one of our booths. At once. Which was our actual, most pressing concern. I may have said that out loud. Ahem. LB looked stunned and indignant. TL looked delighted and stunned too. Everyone looked pretty fucking stunned, yes? Yes. And then, in the middle of that stalemate, the handful of pretty tourist mothers sashayed and there's no other word for it bypassed the ticket box, kissed me in the cheek and put a 50 in each of our tip jars, before sashaying right the fuck out. LB, what the ever-loving fuck? I felt dirty for sharing her WTF moment. I'm mature enough to admit it. Probably. She got back her bearings pretty quick though, and began ranting. I didn't pay quite as much attention as I maybe should have, but in my defense, the guy from the racing game booth beside ours was kind and sweet and had given us free merchandise on the sly when they got it, and he was curious about what was going on and who the crazy lady, LB, was. Then LB said that any earnings on our tip jars would go to the company, since they had been earned in their property, and we were their employees, and we should be grateful we wouldn't get half pay, and I got the hell back into the conversation because what the fuck? That's about when TL lost her shit. In that quiet way that makes people with vengeful siblings get the hell out of Dodge before shit hits the fan. I don't have siblings, but I have more than 20 cousins. When I noticed that TL didn't immediately come up with a sassy rebuttal, I made my excuses, grabbed A and L, and got the heck out of there. TL told us later that she had memorized the company manual, out of sheer spite her words, and told LB in perfect detail what would happen if she or the company touched our spoils. In very polite, very small words, just in case. She then asked us if we'd be willing to go to court over this, because her lawyer friend told her we had a case, if we wanted. TL told me I didn't have to, if I didn't want to. This was my first job, after all, and no one should make me feel pressured. If it made me or anyone else the slightest bit uncomfortable, she could carry on alone. I protested, of course. She was all for it. L was in the fence though. But me? Well. It went like this, more or less. Me, if you need my help, I'll help. TL, are you sure, HW? Me, sure. I won't be coming back next year, anyway, and I don't want anyone they hire to be treated like we were. That was my sticking point. Believe it or not, I'd never worked before, but I've suffered secondhand the results of a toxic working environment, and I don't want that for anyone, even now. Long story short, we won, got our sizable paycheck plus 10 times that for laboral harassment charges. I'm not sure if that's how you say it in English, sorry. But yeah. In the end I earned in a week what I'd need to pay for a year of college tuition. Thanks for being a bitch, Mrs. Manager. Not gonna pay me the wages I deserve? Game on. This is another one of my grandfather's stories. Here's the first. That one was met with a lot of positive feedback, so here's another. On the mobile app, so formatting may be different from others. This story takes place during the 80s. Gramps was a journeyman in the sheet metal trade. For this build, they required a city's licensure to finish the build, and Gramps was selected to test for this. He tested around 4 times and intentionally failed each time, knowing he wouldn't get the pay for a foreman's wages. Finally, the testing coach approached him. Testing coach, you've been in here several times and have failed each time. Is there something wrong? Gramps, my contractor wants this license, but won't pay me the wages associated. Testing coach, calling the company, you get someone down here that can pass this test or you won't get this license. Heading back to the office, Big Boss wants to speak to Gramps. Gramps, why aren't you passing this test? His reply was simple: "You won't pay me foreman's wages, so I don't see the incentive to get this licensure. Hell, I'm not even making full journeyman's wages." Boss: "Well, I can't afford to pay you foreman's pay." Gramps: "Well, then you can't afford to get the licensure either." Boss: "Is this really all that this is about? Money?" Gramps: "Hell yes, it is." Boss acquiesced after this, perhaps seeing the hypocrisy in his statement, or perhaps choosing not to fight this battle. Gramps finally got the licensure after this, and received about a week of foreman wages before he was moved to a school gig. With this build, his ranking was back down to a journeyman position. First paycheck rolls around and he noticed he was getting shorted on his check. Confronting the site foreman about this, it was confirmed that this was no slight error. So, figuring that it wasn't worth the gas money, he said that I wasn't going back the next day, and called the general contractor. General contractor: "Okay, well come back tomorrow, and I'll have a check for your back pay." Gramps: "That sounds fair, but if you do, I'm owed a full 8 hours of work." Contractor: "That's not necessary." Gramps: "Read the union contract. It states that any work-related activity needs to be met with a full day's pay." Gramps was able to twist contractor's arm to both get the pay, and to get a full day's wages out of him. Seems like a win-win for him. Take the week off and make it seem like the job won't be there? Okay, sincerely the only employee. My husband once worked for a pool table moving/repair company. It was small and it was just the owner and him. The owner had a hard time finding people to work for him long-term, which was a difficult situation for him because it took a lot of time/effort to train someone. So my husband was a good worker, always showed up on time, always worked hard, and learned the trade easily. He never took time off but did get PTO. My husband hurt his back on a pool table move. He asked for a day off and the owner got very upset about it. He had no backup person, so if my husband didn't work, he couldn't make money. Well, the owner got mad and said, "Take the whole week off, and then I'll maybe call you next week." The owner could be childish, and I think it was his way of trying to exert control and put to my husband that he was disposable. After a bit of back and forth, my husband asked to use all his PTO since this move would basically screw us money-wise. The owner did end up giving it to him after he cooled down. Well, my husband said F this and started his own company with that week off. He had already been doing side jobs, but decided to go full force, since the owner made it seem like his job could possibly be done for after this week off. After the week and a weekend, the owner reached out to start work again. My husband then told him no way, he already was doing his own thing. This made the owner super pissed. He asked for my husband's work shirts back. Who wants to wear some guy's old work shirts that he super sweat in? And my husband said, "Okay, when I get around to collecting/washing them, I'll let you know." The owner freaked out and threatened to call the police if he didn't give them to him that morning. So my husband was pissed and put them all outside and said pick them up then. Fast forward to yesterday, more than a year later, when my husband ran into him at the park, during our kids' B-day party. Ends up his whole business went down after my husband left. He tried to have his son work with him, but he couldn't do what was needed. Then had some health issues happen, so he couldn't train a new person. He didn't even apologize for threatening to call the police over used work shirts, just told my husband he had no hard feelings. My husband now makes in a day what took him a week plus at the pool table job. My husband can be loyal, and he was only sticking around for this guy. He was able to really grow into his own after leaving that job. I am so thankful that owner was in a hole and pretty much pushed my husband to be his own boss. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.